You are tuning in to the Pop Culture Retrospective Podcast.
This show is dedicated to the memory of my big sister Rebecca, who was a fan of all things pop culture, particularly the people, places, and trends that defined the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Welcome aboard this pop culture time machine. I'm Amy Lewis, and this is episode number 107, Drastic Hair Changes of Celebrities of the 80s and 90s. Get ready for a nostalgic trip back to the era of big hair, bold choices, and unforgettable celebrity transformations. In this special episode, I'm thrilled to welcome back to the show the incredibly knowledgeable and entertaining Jason Lady as an honorary co-host. For those who've tuned in before, you know that Jason brings his signature enthusiasm and deep dives into the wonderfully weird and captivating corners of pop culture. This time around, we're putting the spotlight on the truly dramatic hair metamorphoses that swept through the celebrity landscape of the 1980s and 1990s. These weren't just simple trims. We're talking about radical shifts in style, shocking cuts, and daring dye jobs that not only turned heads, but often became iconic markers of their respective eras. Join us as we reminisce about the hairstyles that stunned the world, ignited trends, whether good or bad, and perhaps even influenced our own questionable hair decisions back in the day. Maybe. From gravity-defying perms to sleek and sudden shaves, prepare for a fun and insightful discussion about the celebrity hair changes that both shocked and inspired fans for years to come. We'll explore the cultural context, the reasons behind these bold moves, and the lasting impact these hairstyles had on fashion and popular imagination. So sit back, relax, and let's nerd out on nostalgia. Thank you so much for tuning into the Pop Culture Retrospective Podcast. My name is Amy Lewis, your host on this Pop Culture Time Machine. And this evening, I am once again very honored to be joined by, and I meant to look up how many episodes it's been. It's probably like pushing 10 at this point. I am joined by none other than Jason Lady. Jason, welcome back to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I was wondering the same thing. If it is 6 episodes, 7, it's something like that. But we might be about to hit the double digits at some point here soon.
I think so.
Great to be back. You know, I love talking about this stuff, and this gives me a place to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's so good. And we, of course, they're supposed to start the show at, X time or whatever. And, of course, we chat about nostalgia and then oops, got to hit the record button. So
Right.
Do you want to well, first, in case listeners have not heard you on an episode before, if you want to tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then if you would like to take the reins on introducing tonight's show topic, I think you may do it justice better than me in terms of just describing our very niche episode that we have this evening.
Oh. Sure thing. Thank you. So my name is Jason Lady, and like Amy said, I've been a guest on several of these podcasts by now. I love talking about retro nostalgia, 1980s, 1990s, 1970s, popular culture. It's something I think about a lot, something I talk about a lot to anybody who will listen to me. And I enjoy having the chance to talk about specific topics and delve into different things, as we've done on past episodes and we'll do on this one as well. In my day-to-day life, I work in human resources for a bank, but where the nostalgia kind of comes in terms of something else I do, I am a children's book author, and I have written now 4 books for middle school kids. My first group of books, there's 3 of them, are called the Magic Pen Adventures, and those are all about kids who get a hold of a magic pen. Everything they draw becomes real when they draw with it. Each one stars a different kid. They can be read in any order. They're called Monster Problems, Super Problems, and Time Problems. And then my latest book that just came out this past March is called The Pure Shore Club, and that is different. That is for slightly older kids. My other books probably skew more 3rd through 7th grade. I envision the new one being more 6th through 9th grade. But this new book is it's definitely longer, and it's more of a straight ahead mystery adventure. It's got some humor in it, but for the most part, it is kids at a private boarding school who get invited to a secretive student organization that actually hasn't met in 5 years. And as they dig into this and find out what happened in the past, they just uncover a lot of really fantastic things. And so where the tie is with the nostalgia with all of this is that really any of the great children's movies or comic books or books that I read when I was a kid really fuels my imagination and fuels my writing. Any of those, like, kids go on an adventure, they're living their day-to-day life, and suddenly, whoa, there's something weird going on here. What's that? So think of Goonies, think of The Never-Ending Story,
Totally.
think of The Last Starfighter, like any of those kind of movies. Explorers, is another one. The Chronicles of Narnia, I know, for some books that are kind of along that same line. There's fantastic stuff going on behind the scenes around us. So that's generally the theme of my books, and they are available on my website, www.jasonrlady.com. But
Excellent.
yeah, so very exciting, with the new book and everything. So the topic, though, for today, to kind of switch gears and talk about that, Amy and I were discussing before we hit record and started being heard by all of you. Whose idea was this?
Yes. Oh, that's usually the question for these niche
Yes.
ones.
We communicate on Instagram messages, and there's a lot of back and forth about, what about this? What about that? What if we talked about this? What if we talked about that? I can say that this is a topic that I have contemplated in the past. So there's a pretty good chance this might have been me that had this idea. So what we're going to be talking about is hair, and specifically celebrity hair, and facial hair and hair on the top of one's head. And specifically, to get even more precise, changes that have happened since the person became famous, whether it was the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and to present day, because there have been some drastic changes where it's like, whoa, is that even the same person? Know?
Right.
There's enough of this that I started to notice, and I was like, you know what? There's enough of these. We could actually do something with this. We could actually have a list, and they're all kind of a little different from each other. So I think that there's some fun things to talk about with all of them.
Yes, absolutely. And these are my absolute favorite kind of shows to do, I think, with you, because it's just so niche and just so hilarious. And, looking back is so, not only funny, but, therapeutic. And, we're both nostalgia nerds. And I think I think that we both have spouses that are like, oh my God, here you go again. So
Pretty
it's good
much.
for us. This is like therapy really for us. And, this is so much fun. And, one thing I wanted to make sure to share before we get into the show, and I think this especially maybe applies a lot on my list, is, some of these situations are going to be maybe a famous person who had hair at one point and went bald, or maybe had a hair transplant or something like that. And I definitely want to make sure to say that this is in no way trying to insult anybody who does not have hair. I am a big proponent of not making obligatory bald jokes towards people. They've heard them all. They don't need to hear them again. And it's not their fault that they have lost their hair. So it's more just kind of like an observation and sort of the maybe unique changes that people have gone through, but certainly not intended to poke fun at anybody. So just to be clear on that, because that's certainly never the goal of the show. It's just to have fun and look back. So we both have, I think 4 people on our kind of official list. And I don't think they're necessarily in a particular order.
No,
I think,
mine aren't.
Yeah, I definitely am saving my, I think, most interesting kind of backstory for the last one that I'll share. And then we both have an honorable mention or two. And so in true, Jason being a guest on the show fashion, I will let him go first. So who is first on your list, Jason?
So first on my list is one half of the duo Hall and Oates. And this is Daryl Hall and John Oates, a very famous pop, rock, soul music duo. I think they got their start in the 70s, and they just cranked out hit after hit after hit. And their songs are ubiquitous on the radio for a long time there, ubiquitous on the grocery store PA system, and probably TV commercials.
Yeah, I would say movie soundtracks too, I think, as well.
I believe so, yeah. I think they've shown up on a lot of movie soundtracks too. No, you're right, and television as well. Hits such as Man Eater, Private Eyes, Rich Girl, I Can't Go for That. You Make My Dreams Come True. You could go on and on. Like I said, these guys ripped out hit after hit.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at recent pictures of Daryl Hall and compared them to old pictures. I don't know how much he has changed. John Oates has changed a lot. And I noticed this a while back when I saw a modern picture of him. I was like, wow, he looks way different than I remember him looking back in the day. So Hall and Oates were active from 1970 to 2024. They recently had a not very amiable breakup, unfortunately. Hopefully they get back together at some point and they work it out. But John Oates, half of the duo, like I said, guitarist, singer, songwriter, and producer, still makes new music solo. I've enjoyed some of what I've heard. But back in the day, John Oates, look at older pictures of him. He had big curly hair, long curly hair. It went tall. It went out to the sides. It went
very
down.
Distinct. Yes.
Very curly. Yeah. He had the curls, which a lot of people didn't, and looked really cool. But the mustache this man had back in the day, it was epic.
It was
not only like a tall mustache, it had like depth and volume to it. It kind of stuck out from his face. Like you see him in profile, it's like, whoa, that mustache like goes out a little bit. It has kind of like a ledge kind of mustache. And it was very full and just rich and just thick. And it's like, wow.
Well, very Wilford Brimley, yes, you would say in some ways. Yes.
If Wilford Brimley wrote songs, right? Yeah. Channeling that.
Diabetes, but yes.
Your diabetes is on my list. Yeah. I don't
know. There you go.
Yeah. But like I said, glorious full black curly hair and a glorious mustache. Now he unfortunately does not have the mustache anymore. At some point he said, you know what, this is getting out of date. It's not in style anymore. And he shaved it off. And I have to imagine that took a while.
Yeah, really. But how many razors do you have to go through to get that thing off? My goodness.
Oh, I know. And I can sympathize because I had a goatee for 20 years. I grew one right after college. So I'd look older. I'd look really young, like really baby face. I was like, well, I want to be taken seriously in the workplace. So I grew some facial hair to kind of help myself look a little older. Sure. Had it for a long time. And then during the pandemic, I was home all the time. And I was like, you know what? Let's grow the full beard. I just had kind of like the circle, around my mouth. It's like, let's grow the full beard and kind of try that out for a while. Got really tired of maintaining it. So more power to these guys who maintain a nice beard, because that's a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of product you're using. And brushes and stuff and trimming. And so just completely shaved everything off. I was like, oh, what's going on under here? I haven't seen what's going on under parts of my face for a long time. Let's see what's going on. Got rid of it and didn't miss it at all. And I've left it off since then. So I can kind of sympathize with Mr. Oates because, if that's what happened, maybe he just got tired of dealing with the mustache. But, also styles change. And, like with me and the goatee, I'm not sure that's really something a lot of men walk around with these days. And John Oates, he might have just been like, oh, mustaches are kind of passe. Now, modern pictures of him still has the curly hair. It's salt and pepper. It's just not as long or as big as it used to be. And he has kind of like, some pictures I've seen of him, he's got kind of like the stubble kind of beard, it's just kind of faintly there, he's got that look now. So he has changed a lot, to the point where you may not know it's the same guy at this point.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it too. Maybe he felt like, well, I can ride the subway now, or I can go order pizza, or, I'm not sure, but
he doesn't want to get recognized on the street anymore. So that was a nice way to do it. In fact, that's a tactic, right? Like drastically change your look, and then no one knows who you are. So more power to him if that's what he decided to do. And he's making solo music now, and all those Hall & Oates days are unfortunately behind them. But probably still making a lot of money on royalties from that catalog of music that they have. So he's probably just like, hey, I don't want to be recognized anymore. Who could blame him? So that is my first one, John Oates, and he was one of the major, as I think of them, mustaches of the 1980s that is no longer with us.
I know there's like a Mount Rushmore of mustaches, and he would definitely be on it.
Oh, absolutely, he would. Yeah, epic mustache. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I can't remember who said this, but I don't know if I was watching something or listening to something, and they said that facial hair for men is sort of like makeup is for women in some ways, for the individuals who are able to grow facial hair. And I'm certainly no expert, but I know some people that's more difficult than it is for other people. But I know, I think for some men, it's a way to maybe if they have blemishes or something, or,
Yeah, scars.
skin
Yeah.
or something, it's a way to kind of hide that a little bit, which is totally understandable. I know some
Yeah.
people in kind of my world that maybe have like a, scar or something that they don't want to
Mhm.
be shown. So, there's a lot of different reasons for why people have facial hair, but certainly that is a gone but not forgotten mustache for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And the Mustache Hall of Fame that
Yes.
resides now in glory.
Hmm. It's the soup strainer, as Phil Dunphy says on Modern Family.
Right. Frankly, another reason not to have facial hair, because yeah, that
True.
gets gross sometimes. If you have a
Oh yeah.
cold or you're eating soup or something, yeah, it's like forget it.
Yeah,
Gross.
that's true. Maybe he was like, he loves oatmeal, and he's like, you know what? I'm really sick of oats on my stash here, so I'm gonna shave this
It
puppy
would
right off.
fit. That was his name. If he didn't eat
Right?
oatmeal, I would actually be disappointed if he didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you never know. I mean, and we'll probably never know the answer to that question. It's going to keep me up at night, but I
Yeah.
digress.
Same. Same.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
one on my list is Andre Agassi. And Andre Agassi is the 8-time Grand Slam champ, and he was born in 1970 in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he became a professional tennis player at the ripe old age of 16, which I totally didn't realize. I've never been a huge tennis fan either, so
Yeah, me
can't say
neither.
I'm an expert on the sport or the athletes by any means, but definitely know who he is for sure. And part of the reason why he became so successful so young is he kind of had like a dad, sort of like Tiger Woods' father, but
Uh,
his dad was like super forceful, very intense, and he was just determined that his son would become a tennis star. And apparently, his dad was from Iran, and he was an immigrant to the United States. And at one point, he was an Olympic boxer. So,
hmm,
athletics, running the family and
ran
taking
the
it very
family.
seriously. Yeah, running the family. And Andre Agassi started losing his hair as a young adult around the age of 19, which I'm sure was
Hmm,
devastating and very overwhelming to be so young and to be,
yeah.
losing your hair. And
Right.
certainly being an educator myself, I worked with many high school students, especially young men who, lost their hair at a young age. And I'm sure I can't even imagine what that feels like. So he was very ashamed of the fact that he was losing his hair.
Hmm.
So as we all probably know, he started wearing a hairpiece, which was, I kind of describe it as like half mullet, half lead singer of Catch a Goo Goo smashed into one. So, so if Catch a Goo Goo and a blonde wig had a baby, that's what would happen. So it was just a very interesting look. I mean, and he pulled it off super well, how he was able to do that is just remarkable. Because it was like really like bleached blonde in parts, and then like kind of darker brown in others. So just a very distinct style, and he almost always wore a headband when he wore that.
Hmm.
And at one point, he made it to the French Open in 1990. Big tennis match,
Mhm.
and his hairpiece fell apart in the shower the night before this
Oh,
game,
no.
which is like awful, because he's hiding this, unfortunate thing that happened to him so young. And,
Right.
he's like making this debut at this huge game. But
Yeah.
thankfully, his brother, who I guess was traveling with him, was able to kind of piece it back together with bobby pins,
Oh, wow.
and like was able to to salvage the Catch-a-Goo-Goo / mullet wig. And yeah, it's just once you get that in your head, it's just not going to go away. So that's what you're going to like see in the middle of the night. You're going to like wake up and have a nightmare like, oh my god, oh no, it's just a dream. Amy was talking about the lead singer of Catch-a-Goo-Goo, whose name I'm not saying, which is not very nice because he has a name. It's not Catch-a-Goo-Goo singer. But anyways, so Andre Agassi would see fans, kind of rocking the same hairstyle as him. That, they must have gone to their barber and said, give me the Andre Agassi. And of course, this,
Full
and
Agassi. Yeah.
yeah, give me the Agassi, give me the Rachel, give me the Andre Agassi. But that just kind of added more to his like shame of like, oh my God, these people want to be like me, but I don't, this isn't even my hair. So eventually he was encouraged to just shave it off. And I think that came from His partner at the time, one source said Brooke Shields, one source said his current wife, Steffi Graf. But either way, a romantic partner of his was able to encourage him and say, hey, like, shave it off. We're still going to love you. You're still going to be attractive. Like, just go for it. Get rid of whatever's left. And he did. And he said that he has no regrets of shaving his head. I think he wished he would have done it earlier. He doesn't have to hide anymore. He felt very liberated. And he also noted that it was much more aerodynamic to be, have your head shaved than to have a Kachagugu / mullet. So, more power to him. Hopefully that sent a message to other young men about, that it's okay to kind of reveal your, your lack of hair. It's okay. Like, we love you, love you anyways. So certainly a powerful moment. And more recently, so he's 55 now, and he married Steffi Graf in 2001. So clearly the head shaving does not bother her. He has a great head. He has a very distinct look. He's a handsome guy, and he has done a lot of really cool stuff. Post retirement, he opened a charter school for at-risk youth in Las Vegas and a boys and girls club, which is super cool. And he plays like pro pickleball now, which is like a huge thing.
Yeah, it's become very trendy. Yeah,
I don't think he does it like on a full-time basis, but he plays, and of course, I guess like he's amazing at it. I mean, he's 55. He's twice as, I guess the other pro players, like his teammate is 18. So like clearly it's a young people sports, but he's like doing awesome at it. He picked up the strategy right away. Go figure. But he's still rocking it out with rocking with a racket all these years later. And it's pretty incredible. I know he went through substance abuse challenges and things like that, and went through some hard times, but seems to be doing pretty good. So Andre Agassi, who knew?
Yeah, pretty well-adjusted, content guy now, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
And yeah.
I have to admit, I missed the whole thing where that was a hairpiece. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that either.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that he had just shaved his head at one point, or was losing it. It was kind of going back, and he was like, okay, I'm just going to shave it all off. That's kind of what I assumed happened. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How do you play tennis with a hairpiece on? Like, it's a lot of running around and jumping and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how does that stay on your head?
Well, I think it was like more like maybe more of like a toupee. I think so. I think it was like, glued on, which that's probably not the right term, but there was some sort of adhesive, I think, to it to be able to keep that on, because he was noted for his physicality and how much he could just run all over the place. So I
had no idea that about him. That's incredible. But what probably helped him is that, and we messaged back and forth a little bit about this today. All that was probably happening when it was actually becoming more mainstream it was okay to be bald. I feel like the forerunner of all that was like Kojak, like Telly Savalas, the actor. He was fully bald, in the 70s or early 80s. And so it wasn't really till the 90s, I think, with like Michael Jordan and Patrick Stewart on Star Trek, men in the mainstream, just being like, what, this is who I am, deal with it,
Right.
And what, it probably came about at a really good time for Andre Agassi, for him to say, what, all these other guys are doing it, I'm going to do it too.
Right.
It's acceptable now. So it was probably a better landing than if he tried to do it earlier,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, how stressful, to put it lightly, would that have been to be playing a professional sport and being worried of like, what if this like comes off and like people are like, and I'm sure people would have,
mocked him
horribly for that. I mean, thank God that, to my knowledge, didn't happen, but my God, I'm sure that, that nervousness must have impacted his game, and I'm so glad that he, during the height of his, career in tennis, that he was able to be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. So
good for him.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah. That's great. No, that's excellent. And speaking of the pickleball thing, I got to imagine any sport where he could pick up a paddle or a racket. Like, I bet he's a great badminton player. I bet he's a good, ping pong player. Like, he's probably really good at all of it,
Yeah. His eye-hand coordination was like, I mean, right out of the gate when he was a kid, was significantly
out of this world,
superior to his peers. So
Yeah, like you
yeah.
said, something genetic there, right? Because I think to be a boxer, you have to also have to have good hand-eye coordination. So his
Oh
dad
yes, big
must have
time.
had good reflexes and so forth, and and
Yeah.
pass those down to his son. So, and I didn't know he was half Iranian too.
Yeah.
Learn
Yep.
all sorts of new
Yeah.
things about him. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
very cool.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. We learn something
neat.
new every day.
Educational. This podcast is,
I
Amy.
know. Again, we're here to not only educate, but to entertain and
Yes,
inform. Edutainment, as Walt Disney called it, I believe.
yes, like Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Entertainment. All right. Who's next on your list?
Okay, so I have another epic mustache from back in the day, and we're going to talk about the musician known as Yanni.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
oh, Yanni. So he is,
AKA Jesus's brother or something.
yes,
Jesus adjacent or something. Has a
yeah.
very heavenly look to him, if you will.
Yeah, kind of angelic and otherworldly. Yeah, very much
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't know who Yanni is, I didn't know who he was for a long time. He didn't get on my radar until I was at a backyard barbecue at a friend's house, and they had like little CD players sitting out playing music, and I was like,
Hmm.
"What is that?" And my friend was like, "Oh, that's Yanni." I'm like, "I don't know anything about Yanni,"
Yeah.
And but it was very relaxing, celestial, like new age music.
Yeah.
Yanni is Greek. He's a musician, he's a producer, he's a keyboardist, he's a pianist, he's a composer, um, songwriter. And like I said, his genre is new age, also called instrumental, also called world music. Is the kind of music. So if you can kind of, hear in your head what that is, that's exactly what he's doing. He was one of the first to pair like himself playing like synthesizers and electronic keyboards with a full orchestra right there, and kind of pair these two together and meld them. And you can definitely pick it up in his music. There's strings and there's wind instruments and all sorts of stuff going on, drums, and then he's over there with the synth side of it.
Mhm.
And kind of like conducting it as well. So really talented guy, prolific. I didn't write down when he got his start. I want to say it was like the late 80s, and then really the 90s, I think, was kind of where he got
Sounds about
big.
right. Yeah.
Kind of
Yep.
started to spread outside of Greece and spread outside of Europe and got really well known. He is known for his concerts, where he has concert videos where he plays at historical landmarks around the world. He'll do like a full concert with the pyramids in the background, or the Sphinx, or the Roman Colosseum. The Great Wall of China, like the
Yeah.
Forbidden City in China. Like he has things behind him when he does this, and I guess that just adds to like the atmosphere of what he's doing with his music, which is big, which is very majestic. I think I think of that when I hear
Yeah.
his music, but also very chill. Somebody didn't mention when I was putting together my notes for this, I played Hall and Oates, and I also played Yanni,
Of course.
and quite a pairing there, as you do.
Yes.
Hadn't really
Yes.
listened to a lot of Yanni music in the past, and I was like, this is really relaxing. It was like the evening, and I was just like, I'm ready to go to bed now. This is really chill.
Yes.
So good music in my 40s. I don't know if I would have liked it when I was in my 20s, but now I'm like, oh yeah, put the Yanni on.
You're middle-aged when. Yes.
Yeah, I could see myself playing this in the car on the way to work, whereas back in the
Mhm.
day, it probably would have made me fall asleep and drive off the road, So
Right.
now I'm just like, yeah, bring it on, bring the Yanni on. He has 16 albums. Oh, I'm sorry, 16 albums that peaked at #1 in Billboard's top new age album chart. So 16 albums that he's had as a #1 on the Billboard new age chart. So very impressive.
Yeah.
So let's see. So back in the day, to talk about Yanni's look, like you alluded to it, Amy, he looked like
Yes.
Jesus Christ back in the day.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
also thought he kind of looked like a musketeer, like like D'Artagnan. You can
Mhm.
see him with the big hat with the
Yeah,
plume
I
and
could see that.
a
Yes.
big sword and a cape, and swinging on
Yes.
a rope. He just looked very dashing.
Yeah.
He had epic mustache. It didn't have like the ledge like John Oates, it wasn't like
Yeah.
going out, but it was just like this full dark mustache and like just this wavy dark hair. And there's lots of photos of him online with like the wind blowing the hair about him, and he's looking, into the distance, like looking, contemplative and musical,
Yes. And
and
usually in like a light colored suit, I want to say too, like a
yeah.
like kind of a khaki,
Mhm.
beige, grayish colored suit, I want to say
I
often.
would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Good
he was
contrast with the hair color.
It is, and kind of adds to the whole image of, I am a new age artist, so I'm going to look very simple and aesthetic, but also
Yes.
have the flowing hair where, it looks like I haven't cut my hair in a while,
Yeah.
he's going to do that look. So kind of like John Oates, like we talked about before, you look at modern pictures of Yanni, he no longer looks like D'Artagnan. He has kind of changed with the times. He's another one of those great mustaches of the past that is now gone, unfortunately. He does not have the glorious mustache. And he has cut his hair too, unfortunately, which I would think that would make him lose his power. You know what I mean? Kind of like
Yes.
Samson, like he wouldn't be able to compose music. Like, oh, I just haven't had any ideas in ages. What's wrong? It's like, well, you cut your hair, Yanni. Bring your hair back. Then the music will return, So
sounds like a movie plot.
It does, yeah. What have you done, Yanni? What have you done? So yeah, his hair is still wavy and it's just short now. It's just a little long in the back. And yeah, but unfortunately, he doesn't really look that part anymore. I think of a new age musician. I think about his old look.
Oh, God.
Like, yeah, you look like a guru. You look like you're a druid or something. Or in his case, like a musketeer. Like he could be one of the three musketeers. He could be Porthos or D'Artagnan or one of those. So unfortunately, another Hall of Fame. Great mustache of the past, completely gone. He just looks like a regular guy now. I'm not sure I would know who he was on the street now. Whereas before, I definitely would have like, "There's Yanni, there goes Yanni. I saw Yanni at Walmart." Whereas
there's
now
the halo. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's like a light coming from behind him.
Right.
Yeah,
it's glowing. So I don't know if I've seen a recent picture of Yanni. I'm gonna have to look that up. Maybe I should do it during the day. I don't know if I want to do that at nighttime before I go to sleep. That might kind of freak me out. But yes, I feel like the new age really, I feel like, exploded in the late 80s and early 90s, and my parents were all over that.
Were they?
Oh my God. Always listening to, and especially talking about the hair, Kenny G was very popular during this time.
Yeah.
And there was a very famous radio station in Chicago, and I can still sing their jingle because it's like stuck in my head. And it was WNUA 95.5. I can't sing high. Anyways, that was all smooth jazz. And so that station was always on our humongous stereo in the living room, always listening to the latest smooth jazz, produce section, elevator music with occasional Yanni, occasional Kenny G. My parents were all over that. And when I was with my dad and stepmom recently, I said, "Oh, whenever I walk backwards, I always think about that, that Enya song." And then
I thought you
was on the Pure Mood CD. Yeah. And then my stepmom said something. I think they're like, "Oh, that's on the Pure Mood CD," or I said it or something. And she goes, "I think we still have that." I was like, "Oh dear God, you too?" No, I mean, I've known her since I was a teenager. So they were, step parents. I'll tell you what, baby boomers love smooth jazz.
It's
and new age music. They're all over it.
They're all
of them. All of them.
Well, like I was saying earlier, though, I think we all get there eventually.
Now
you might get there too, Amy, someday where you're like,
I'm there. Oh, trust me.
Are you already there? Okay,
I'm there. Cool. Oh yeah, Kenny G.
You want music to help you chill. You don't want music to get you revved up anymore. It's like, no, I want to relax. I'm stressed out during the day. I want to relax.
I know.
It's interesting to hear you say that because I'm envisioning me listening to Yanni. My dad's rolling in his grave because he hated that music with a passion. My dad was a rock and roll blues guy.
He didn't succumb to the smooth jazz / new age thing.
He was appalled. I listened to that stuff. Yeah, I mean, kind of appalled in a kidding way. He wasn't totally serious about being appalled, but he would like to have this mock outrage, like, "Oh, I can't believe my son listens to that music." It was really.
I spit at the thought of Jason listening to that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's probably going to come back and get me. Now that I've listened to a block of Yanni the other day. But yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, definitely wasn't into that. That was something I got into when I left home and started working and started discovering more music on my own. And Cleveland had 107.3 The Wave, actually. 107.3 The Wave is how it went, and it changed formats. Amy, it's not a jazz station anymore.
Same with 95.5.
Oh, what happened?
I know. Didn't they know that the next generation of middle-aged people want to take this on?
Right.
Come on. What is wrong with you people? You're missing. This is a missed opportunity. You know
One
what?
less
You and I,
alternative
we're going
rock
to quit our
station.
job.
Yes.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to quit our jobs, or I'm going to close my business, shut down, podcast
Yes.
over. You
Yep.
quit your job, stop writing, and we're just going to start our own new wave radio station. And
Oh,
we
we
have the
would love
voices
it.
for it. And I mean, come on.
We do. You have to sound like you are half asleep if you're a DJ. Yeah,
Totally.
like you've taken some powerful medications, and
Right.
you had
I just
you've
took
just
some
heard
NyQuil, and next we'll be listening to.
you've just heard 30 solid minutes of Sade.
Right. Oh God. Oh, love Sade.
Oh, Sade too. Oh my
Oh, she is so
God.
good. So good. The smooth operator,
Oh
coast
my
to coast,
goodness.
going to
Yeah.
Chicago. I mean, come on. Oh,
Keep Looking,
so good.
Paradise. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
good. Yeah. And she has like the coolest band in the world. Like
yeah.
5 or 6 of just the coolest men on the planet. They look like, like
Yeah.
one has dreadlocks and just like a really fit guy, like playing the bass over here. And I'm just like the
Hmm.
coolest band ever. Like, my
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah, really. Does a saxophonist wear like a vest with no shirt underneath? Because that's usually like the
Probably.
typical
Yeah. Yeah. The
dress
saxophone
code of a
outfit.
saxophonist. Yeah.
Every new
Yeah.
age band has one guy with just a vest on. Yeah.
Right. Just a vest. Like I'm a banquet server by day and a saxophone player by night.
Right.
It's the best life ever. Best of both worlds.
Another
Have you
musician
ever
along
heard of
that line
Andreas
is
Vollenweider?
no, I haven't heard of that one.
Okay,
No.
I'll send you something because that was another new
Please.
age, really
Okay.
weird kind of a kind of like he's sort of like a Jesus / like wizard person who I'll go off on, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'll send you that, and I'll maybe if I can find like a classic Vollenweider music video or something, I'll make sure to post it in the show notes. But if you want to get like
Sweet. Okay.
really, if you want to feel like
Get down. Yeah.
new age just music just threw up on you, listen to some Andreas Vollenweider because you'll be doused in the magical effects of new age music. So
Nice. Oh, I love it. That's
it's
great.
yeah,
That's
a lot of
great.
whistles, triangles, yet
Flutes. A lot of flutes.
yes, a lot of flutes. Yep.
Yeah.
But just something about the way it's all composed is actually like really beautiful.
Mhm.
And like super well done. Not like, oh my God, turn this off now. It's like this is the most unique music I've ever heard. So,
Yeah, a lot of that
yeah.
music is gorgeous,
Mhm.
like on one hand you're like, yeah, that's what sounds like what you hear when you walk into an incense store, what they're playing over their PA
Yes.
system, but it
Yes.
probably is, actually. And but yeah, a lot of it is gorgeous and you admire the musicianship involved. And yeah, with Yanni, I'm just like, this guy is super talented and super prolific. I mean, I just admire it. So like I said, 15-year-old Jason probably would have been like, what is this stuff? This is just old people music. But now I'm like, I am old and I like it.
Right. You know what? My back hurts. I'm just going to sit down and listen to some Yanni and fall asleep.
Yes. Go into a coma. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll be happy.
Saturday night.
It does. That's kind of what I want to do anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you
What's
do last weekend? Man, you know what? We stayed up till like midnight listening to Yanni, and then we found our copy of Pure Moods. Oh,
one change there. We stayed up till 9:00.
Right, exactly. Oh, I never slept at midnight. It was like my worst nightmare. Yeah, so true.
Yeah, I messed up for 3 days if I stay up till midnight anymore. Wow. But yeah, if you listen to that music, yeah, you're gonna go to sleep early. There's just no way around it,
Right. Yeah, who needs melatonin when we have Andreas Vollenweider?
Right.
Don't need it.
Yeah, totally.
So, and speaking of new age music and Yanni and stuff, the next person on my list is Eminem. So, similar here, similar genres.
Totally. There's a Venn diagram there between Eminem and Yanni.
There's overlap for sure.
I want the collaboration album between those two,
Oh my God.
We got to talking. We realized we had a lot in common. Let's
put
an album together, Eminem.
They would actually, that would be amazing, actually, because they're both like geniuses.
Super talented people, yeah.
Yeah. So Eminem was born on October 17th, 1972, and his real name is Marshall Roos Mathers III. And he is certainly, controversial, of course, not, get into specifics by any means, but he's definitely one of the most recognizable faces in the rap and hip hop music industry. And he's sold over 200 million albums worldwide. That is like insane.
I haven't sold 200 million of anything. So, I aspire to those numbers. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he, to this day, as far as I can tell, has the highest selling rap album of all time, which is the Eminem Show that was released in 2002. And
Oh,
that has sold over 27 million copies. And fun fact, one thing I learned about him, he had a really, 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 really awful childhood. And but this is kind of funny. So his mom and dad were in a band together, allegedly. I don't know what kind of music they played together, but they were in a band. The band's name was Daddy Warbucks. So they must have really loved Little Orphan Annie, apparently.
yeah, loved Annie. Yeah, clearly Annie fans. Yeah.
Right. I mean, who isn't a Nanny fan? I watch that every night. And they performed at Ramada Inns,
Mm,
which
okay.
that's like very specific, like not just like hotels,
Yeah.
Ramadas.
Only Ramada Inns.
Right.
That's the chain where we got our inn, and we
Right.
are just gonna drive that as
Yep.
far as we can take it. Yeah.
No Holiday Inn, no Red Roof Inn, no Motel 6, Ramada Inn only.
Wow. No
So
Comfort Inn, no Embassy
no,
Suites. No.
it
Oh,
really, they just that little too narrow there.
yeah.
So but trying to be funny, but his father abandoned the family when Eminem was just a year and a half years old, which is of course really awful. And he was raised by his single mother and grew up in poverty and lived in really dangerous areas growing up in the greater in Detroit, the Detroit area. And during that time, Detroit's kind of making a comeback now, which is
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
But certainly at that point, Detroit was a tough place to live.
Sure.
And he failed the ninth grade 3 times and eventually dropped out of school. But no matter what challenges he was going through, he was always kind of working on writing music and rapping and working on putting together lyrics and listening to artists that inspire him. So eventually, after doing all this behind the scenes writing while he was working all these odd jobs. He was a dishwasher for many years and, working all these odd jobs. This hard work eventually paid off because in 1998, he was signed by Aftermath and Interscope Records, thanks to Dr. Dre. He'd heard his demo tape and he said, like, find him now, which apparently he had like never done. Like he was given demo, and probably to this day is given like demo music. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
said he'd like never never sign somebody just based off of that alone. And Eminem was the only one that he was like, this, like, we need to find this guy. So, yeah. So fast forward a little bit. So the Slim Shady LP came out in 1999, and that's when kind of this Eminem look started because apparently Eminem actually is naturally a brunette. He has like really, really dark brown hair, kind of like mine, maybe even a little bit darker, I would say. But this is kind of part of the whole look because part of the reason why he became a little bit more successful later on is because he kind of changed his persona a little bit. His lyrics became a little bit more harsh and kind of explicit and stuff like that, which again, that's all very debatable. But I think what we can all agree on is that Eminem is a really gifted writer. I think his stage persona is really, I think, quite a bit different than who he is like really behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But that's when he decided to bleach his hair blonde. And kind of had this whole, Eminem persona look with a, oversized white t-shirt and baggy jeans and stuff like that. So he had that look for a really long time, and then he went through a kind of another round of difficult substance use and released 2 albums. One was Relapse and one is Recovery, and he returned to his brunette hair color, and people went crazy. They could not.
Wow.
People were like so mad that he went back to his original hair color, like, commenting on every social media outlet possible, like, where's your blonde hair? Go back to the blonde hair. Like, what are you doing?
Jeez.
Yeah. So,
Heaven forbid someone change something about their appearance, right?
right, right. And I mean, and having chemicals applied to your,
Mhm.
head, especially if you bleach your hair blonde, I mean, your roots start to come through so quickly that that's something you have to dye a lot because the contrast is like really obvious. So I'm sure that was,
Becoming a lot of work, I imagine, to keep it up.
a
Yeah.
lot of work. Yeah. exactly.
Hmm.
So he did actually go back to being blonde for a little bit. But then around 2017, 2018, he went back to his original hair color and actually started to grow a beard. And so
Oh,
now Eminem has like dark brown hair and a beard,
no
which at
way.
first, yeah, which at first I was like, oh, that's so weird. Like, just so used to,
Yeah.
and his
Clean
height of
shaven.
popularity aligns with
Yeah.
like my, young adulthood, like see his rise in fame,
Hmm.
and but now that I've digested it, because
Got time
it's
to get used to it. Yes.
right now that because it matters, my opinion and
Right.
perspective is what matters.
He was waiting to
Um,
hear. Yeah. He was
right.
waiting by the phone.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's important stuff. Um, I think it actually suits him quite well, and he's I think his daughter recently got married. I think did she have a baby possibly? I mean, he might be like a grandfather now. I know Tony Hawk is a
Oh,
grandfather
wow.
now, which is like so weird. And
Holy moly.
Courtney Love is a grandmother, because
What?
yeah, because Tony Hawk's son married Frances, I think, yeah, I think married
No way.
Frances Bean Cobain. I'm trying to remember what her full name is.
I had no
Um,
idea.
so yeah, so now he's like he's a grandpa and like is in commercials for like itch cream and stuff. Is really bizarre. Things are coming full circle.
That
Um,
that is bizarre. Wow, that's hard to contemplate. I did not
yeah,
know that. Wow, but I can see where that's making him think about his life and giving him new perspectives, I'm sure.
yeah. I know I saw like some random I don't know if he like used some like home video clip or something from his daughter's wedding in a music video or something, but you can just see him like crying and hugging her. It's like actually really sweet. Like he has this whole Eminem persona, but he was
Yeah.
working like 60 hours a week when she was born so that they
Uh,
would have enough money to like,
mhm.
have food to give her and stuff. So like,
Yeah.
another behind the scenes, like a lot going on that, the public wasn't aware of. And
Hmm.
if he wants to, he sold 200 million copies of his music. If he
Yeah.
wants to dye his hair back to its original color, I think that's totally fine.
He could do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He has conquered the world. Like, I'm sure that was a nightmare to maintain. Even if you
I'm
have a lot of money,
sure.
it still is like, who wants
Mhm.
to have to do that every 2 seconds? So,
Yeah, no,
um,
that is rough. I have never attempted it. I would look ridiculous if I tried.
yeah.
He looked cool. I would not look cool. People would be
Yeah.
like, "What happened to him?"
Yeah.
So more power to him. And
Yeah.
I got to imagine. I can only speculate, but having a grandchild, maybe he's making up for lost time with like being able to be there a little more for the grandchild because maybe he has to, work less and can be around more.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. It sounds like his work ethic is, I mean, just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Incredibly prolific. Again, going back to that prolificness, I admire that where people are just able to produce such a body of work. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's also educational for me. I did not know
Mhm.
he had a beard and dark hair now. So
Yeah.
I've not seen him in a while.
It looks weird. I mean, just different, but it's like once, it works. It works. He
He
looks
was
more like
inducted in
sophisticated, I think.
Yeah, he probably does. Yeah, it probably looks less like a kid, like I feel like if you bleach your hair blonde, like you can look a little younger than you really are, and
Right.
maybe he's kind of embracing his age more.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
probably didn't know this because last time I saw him in anything, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he went up with a hood. He had a hoodie on, and he had the
Hmm.
hood up, and his face was it was kind of an interesting effect. His face was kind of shrouded in shadow as he was talking up there,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's just a look,
Yeah.
that he's doing, and I was like, huh. Um, I had no idea that his appearance had changed that much, because he had kind of obscured it, for that one event where I saw him. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. I mean, definitely like he's a professional musician. Like he writes, I mean, all of that music. Like I think that, maybe his look is aligning more with like he's like a serious
Yeah. Mhm.
performer, serious writer. So
Yeah.
more power to him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
went to Detroit once. I mean, I've been to Detroit a few times, but I went there for work once, and you could drive on the one freeway, and you could see a sign for 8 Mile Road, which
Hmm.
is what his movie is named after,
Yeah.
and I think where he grew up along there somewhere. So, and they have a number of roads like that, like 5 Mile Road, 6 Mile Road. Don't quote me on those, but there
Yeah.
were a bunch of numbered roads like that, and they're all called that. So I kind of like saw that, and I was like, got a little bit of a chill, like, oh wow,
Yeah.
he grew up around here somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
neat stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's Eminem's hair.
Eminem's hair, the saga of
Yes.
Eminem's hair. Wow, and
And
it's
beard.
interesting because the beard is coming now, as opposed to these other people we're talking about, where the beard went away and they
Yeah.
never went back to it. Yeah, so he kind of did the reverse of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it
interesting.
looks good on him, and he still looks. I mean, he has a very youthful,
Hmm. Yeah,
you
looking
know,
face. Yeah.
yeah, he still looks like youthful. Like he doesn't necessarily look like somebody that would have a
Hmm.
25-year-old daughter, but I mean, he's old enough to have a 25-year-old daughter. But
Yeah.
I think he looks good. So,
What is he like? Late 40s, early 50s?
you know, he's in his 50s. I think he was born in 70. What did I say? 72. I think. Yeah,
Oh,
born in
right.
1972. So, yeah.
Okay, it's my
So he's
sister's
like
age. Yeah.
40. Yeah.
Yep.
Excuse me, 53.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I had no idea he was that old, actually. I kind of like, again, you kind of envision him, what little I've seen of him over the years as a younger man. And yeah,
Yeah.
wow, he's older than I am.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks good. Looks good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Well, so who you got next?
Okay, so this is a little bit of a cheat. I'm actually talking about four individuals at this point,
Mm,
but altogether they are known as a quartet. These are the Beatles that I'm going to talk about.
yes.
So the Beatles, I'm not like someone who listens to a ton of their music all the time, but definitely growing up, my mom and dad did. I
Mm,
mentioned earlier that they were my dad was a classic rock guy, so he and my mom had all the Beatles albums. They were right in that generation where they probably had all the first editions of all of them. I
yeah.
think my mom still has a lot of those. And they would play that stuff all the time. So the Beatles were kind of grew up with them, always hearing the music, hearing about them. You and I have talked before, Amy, about record album artwork and
Mm,
like being able to sit when you're a little kid going through mom and dad's records, just looking at those pictures and those photos and opening it
yes.
up and reading the words and stuff. And it was just so cool to be able to do that. Kind of a lost art in the age of streaming, to be able to do that. But
Agreed.
my mom and dad would have out their Beatles albums, and I was a little kid, and I would sit there looking at them, and the Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, has that amazing, awesome, just elaborate picture with all those people on it, and just
Yeah.
staring at that for eons, just
Yeah.
looking at all the details.
That has to be one of the top 10 album covers of all time. I mean, it's so distinct, so unique.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, as a kid, it was not lost on me, the dramatic changes that the Beatles went through in their
Yes.
career, because the changes between, and I have it written down here. Let me see if I can find it. Well, I can just say their early album all the way to I Want to Hold Your Hand. So that
Mm,
early stuff, their early album, those versions of the Beatles were wearing dark suits and ties, white shirts, and they had hair that was long for the time, but we would not consider it long now
yeah.
at all.
Yeah. True.
Scandalous, though, my mom told me. She was a
Hmm.
teenager as music was coming out. She said her dad thought it was like, going to be the downfall of America, and
Yeah, that's
juvenile
true.
delinquency would be caused by that hair.
Blasphemy. Yeah.
You look at it now, it's like they look like really clean cut, like just like young guys,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it-
So
yeah.
true.
I can only
Same with
imagine
like
what he thought
Elvis. They
later.
thought, yeah, Elvis was, so inappropriate and
Yes.
yeah.
Right. Like, his hair and the way he's dancing. It's like, you haven't seen anything yet. Let's give it a
Right.
few
Yeah,
decades
really.
here. And,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
where things went. So they went from super clean cut, kind of the mop top haircuts, but just really cheerful looking, clean cut guys. And
Yeah.
then advance forward a few years, and they all have long hair. Three of the four, John Lennon didn't have a beard, but the other three did.
Yeah.
Some version of facial hair, either like a long pirate mustache or like a beard, full beard,
Yeah.
And the progression of the music and the facial hair kind of coincides, because the music got weirder as the
Yes.
facial hair and the hair got on the head got longer,
Right.
because you start out with songs like, I want to hold your hand, like really simple pop songs that are like 3 minutes long, they're like bubblegum.
Right.
The later stuff, off of the Let It Be album, you've got a song called I Am the Walrus, which you probably have heard before.
Yes.
Psychedelic as all get out.
Yes.
Clearly, things were happening behind the scenes as they were writing this music.
Indeed.
You
Yes.
listen to those lyrics, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you were like
Yeah.
babbling. I am the walrus. I am the Eggman. Wow. And so you see the progression, and like I said, the
Hmm.
hair got wilder as the music got wilder. And
Yes.
to see that evolution, even as a kid sitting there with the record albums lined up, being like, whoa, look what happened.
Yeah.
And in the early days, I couldn't tell the four of them apart, really, honestly. My mom and dad had the movies, Hard Day's Night, Help. I watched them with my parents. And, I couldn't tell the four guys apart. It was like four white English guys in black
Yeah,
suits running around.
right.
Later it's like, oh, yeah, you can tell these guys apart now.
Yeah. It's like they all had some agreement, like, let's all have relatively similar hair length at the same
Yes.
time. Oh, you're going to grow yours out? Okay, I will too. Oh, and you guys have to do also. Yeah.
We all have to, go. Yeah, it would be funny if one of them had stuck with the old look and just was
Yeah.
like refusing, like, I draw
I
a
was
line in the
thinking that
sand,
too.
gentlemen.
Yeah.
I will not grow my hair. I will
Right.
keep shaving. And like, no, you will grow a beard now.
Right.
John Lennon had the long hair and got famous for the wireframe circular glasses that he had, that he started adopting.
Yeah.
Like I said, the others all had beards and long hair. And kind of where they went from there. So, of course, John Lennon, was, murdered at a young age, unfortunately, in 1980. So we didn't really get to see, obviously, what happened to him. George Harrison kind of stuck with the, beard and long hair look.
You're saying you put the hair in Harrison?
Yeah, maybe he did. Yeah.
That's spelled right though, but right, I don't think so because it's like HAR. Anyways.
And he kept recording up through the 80s. He had that hit, Got My Mind Set on You, Yeah, I remember that music video where the whole room comes to life and it's like dancing as he's singing. And there's one part where it's a very obvious stunt double dancing, like doing acrobatics and stuff. Still remember my dad watching that and being like, that is not old man George Harrison doing that.
Yes.
That is a stunt double, son.
Yeah.
I know. Point that out to me.
So bad at doing, like covering that up in the 80s. So bad.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it was just terrible. Yeah, someone who's like, half the height and like, different hair color and like
half
everything.
The age. Yeah.
Right. Doesn't have the beard when he does, and all that stuff. Oh, they won't notice because the TVs are such low definition.
Right.
Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney's still with us. Paul McCartney went back to the clean shaven look a while back, and he has stayed with that. He has not altered the way he looks in a long time. And Ringo Starr, slightly long hair and still has like a really nice mustache that he has kept. Actually, I think he's got kind of a goatee or a beard.
I think
now.
so too, or like stubble or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he tours with the All-Star Band, which the membership changes periodically. It's different classic musicians he just brings together, and they're kind of a powerhouse group, whatever group he has, and they tour together. There's some good clips on YouTube of them doing different songs by whatever artists are in the group at the time.
That's so cool, and that's just such a testament to how much they love performing and how much they love music, because they don't need they didn't need to perform 30 years ago. They would have been set for life. But and Paul McCartney still performs, and that's amazing.
Yeah, testament to just how much these guys love to play, and they and then the artists that come to their all-star band, they probably get asked, hey, do you want to do this? And they're like, we get to play with Ringo Starr. This is awesome, And my aunt actually got to see them actually a few years ago, and she said they were amazing, which I'm like, I'm sure they were. McCartney and Starr, I didn't write down their ages. They've got to be in their 80s or something by now.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
They still tour and stuff. I'm like, I don't know how these guys do it because I could not keep up that schedule now.
Because I think Mick Jagger is like 81 or something.
Yeah, still dancing on stage.
He still dyes his hair, but I think Paul McCartney just has let it let it be. And then
Did you see what you did there? Yeah, very good.
So bad.
He's not asking for help. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Ringo Starr I think he must dye his hair, because I think the most recent stuff I've seen, he's got dark hair, but which is fine. No judgment. You do you.
Yeah.
You're a successful musician. That's fine.
And that's the thing, as I talk about a lot of these guys, and what they look like now, I think they all look really classy now. I aspire to be a classy looking older man, and hopefully I will, not look ridiculous. And, I admired them changing with the times and kind of saying, hey, here's who I'm going to be now. And, not necessarily sticking with the old dated look, but, updating themselves for the times. My little side note, speaking of my dad had to do that, actually. He had a mustache as long as I remembered up until the 2000s. My dad was in the Army, and he was told at one point, if you want to, advance higher, you're going to have to get rid of the mustache. I actually got told that and had to get rid of it. So again, sometimes it's foisted on you, and sometimes you just do it because of style, or maybe you're tired of it. But so yeah, the Beatles, and it's a nostalgia podcast. I thought I'd talk about going way back to my childhood and looking at those Beatles records and being like, holy cow, these guys went through a transformation. Are these the same four guys, Mom? I don't think they are. I don't believe it.
I mean,
they went from four clones in suits to like these guys who are like hairier than a Snuffleupagus on Sesame Street, right?
Yeah, really. So true. So
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So that is the Beatles. So cheated a little bit, went back to the 60s, 70s
Oh,
kind
it's
of,
okay.
and like, talked about four guys in one entry here. But
Yeah.
what
Oh,
is
that's a
your
good one.
what's your next one?
So my next one is was actually the subject of a full podcast episode very kind of early on. I think it was like maybe episode 9.
Oh,
So next on my list is Michael Bolton, who my sister loved, which is so funny
did
because
she?
she
Wow.
did. Oh my God. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Like was obsessed with him, but it was like at a weird, it was like later in her life too. It's not like my
Mhm.
mom or dad listened to him and so like we liked him too. Like she like somehow randomly stumbled upon him when she was like 33 and like, rode that until the wheels fell off. So she just adored Michael Bolton. So,
Wow.
which is just hysterical because
That
she
is.
wasn't like a light rock kind of, wasn't a middle-aged woman when he was at the height of his,
I was
popularity.
saying,
So she did not
like,
fit the demographic, but it was hilarious.
the Michael
Uh,
Bolton demographic is like middle-aged women in the early 90s, right? That's
yeah,
generally
pretty
early
much.
1990s. If you're middle-aged and you're a woman, you like Michael
Right.
Bolton, you know?
Exactly. You like all the trifecta of the three, long hair, Michael Bolton, Yanni, Kenny G,
Yes.
So it was interesting. I think she's the only 30 something and in the 2010s or whatever that was listening to Michael Bolton. So
Probably. Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. So Michael Bolton was actually born Michael Bulletin. I think he was told to change his name just to make it, stage name more easier to pronounce, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
He was born on February 26th, 1953 in New Haven, Connecticut. He is a very famous singer who has sold over 60 million records across the globe. And he fell in love with music and singing at a young age. He could play the saxophone. I'm not sure if that involved a vest or not, but probably not 'cause he's 7. Uh, but you never know.
Maybe. Yeah.
He could play the saxophone by the age of 7, and by 11 he could play the guitar. And he formed his first band, the Nomads, when he was just 14 years old.
Wow. I was not that
Um,
ambitious when I was 14.
no, I'm not kidding. I would go to the toy store and get some X-Men figurines and then go to soccer practice. Late
Yes.
bloomer. Late bloomer. Right here.
Same. Same.
Dork with a capital D.
Right. Still playing with my Star
Um,
Wars toys, probably. Yeah.
yeah, really. Can I get that new Wolverine and go to soccer practice with all the other girls who are like, I'm gonna get my nails painted today? And I'm like, oh, here, do you want to talk about X-Men? Oh, you don't? Okay. Yeah, anyways, so he actually started growing out his hair when he was about 12, and continued, growing it for decades after that. And it actually took Michael Bolton a long time to become a successful musician. If you go back to that old episode of the podcast, which is actually, biased, but a fun episode, he was, denied record deals or, laughed at or rejected over and over and over again. He was not an overnight sensation or something like that. I mean, he worked really hard
Wow.
to become a musician, and is clearly very talented, whether you care for his music or not. I think it's hard to argue that he's not a talented person.
Right.
But once he did finally become famous and his music sort of took off, his signature look at the time was long, wavy, kind of dirty blonde hair.
Yeah.
And he often, had a few of his buttons undone on his shirt to expose some chest hair.
Of course.
So the ladies, and I'm sure some men too, but the middle-aged ladies just went crazy for that.
For Michael Bolton. Oh yeah.
Yes, just loved that. And so he became well known for this look, but he actually cut it off in 1997, which I thought was more recent than that. But he cut it off in 1997, and he actually used the opportunity for a fundraiser. Oh. And by cutting it off, he raised over $9,000 for charities that benefit women and children. And he's actually really known for his like philanthropic endeavors. He's done a lot of stuff to donate. I think his mom I want to say his mother was a social worker or something like that. So he's always been very passionate about helping victims of domestic violence and stuff like that. He's just a really neat guy and neat family. Yeah. So this was, of course, a huge deal because everybody knows Michael Bolton is having this hair. He was poked fun at on in Living Color, they did a sketch with him, and his head exploded off his body, and so everybody knew him, for this hair. So he actually said that throughout the course of his music career, tens of millions of dollars were spent on marketing his music, kind of based on his hair and his look. So cutting this off was a really, really big deal. Which I actually, when I saw / learned that he had cut it off, I thought he actually looked really nice. He's a handsome man. I thought personally, again, because my opinion is the most important. I thought he looked more handsome with his hair short, personally. But I guess at one point he was dating Ashley Judd, the famous
I didn't
actress.
know that.
I didn't know that either.
Okay.
So random. He's a ladies' man, but he was dating Ashley Judd at the time it was cut off, and she sort of reassured him, like, it's fine. It looks, you look great. And allegedly she said after they had broken up that she did miss his long hair.
The long, lustrous Michael Bolton hair. Oh, she's sad.
She's like, how can I live without your long hair? But apparently she did, because they broke up. And she's still around, so she's fine. But she missed it. And in more recent years, he's actually experienced a lot of hardship. He received a brain cancer diagnosis in 2023. Yeah, which is terrible. And
I just read an article about that. I'm trying to remember how that got on my radar, but I did read about that. I was like, oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, well, maybe when you're Googling like big hair changes of
that might have been it, actually. Yeah, you're right. I think I was Googling that and he came up. Yeah.
Target marketing, perhaps.
Yeah.
So apparently he started singing while he was recovering after this initial surgery, and the nurse didn't know who he was, because she's an idiot. And
how do you not know that? Yeah,
I know. What was a nurse, like 12? So anyways, the nurse said something to his daughter along the lines of like, did you know that your dad is like a really good singer? Because she didn't know, because she didn't know who he was. So yeah. So again,
water wet. Yeah,
yeah, really. Is it nice to have?
I'm glad you're here to tell me this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. So I mean, again, talking about like people that are passionate about music. I mean, that's pretty remarkable that he's like recovering from brain cancer surgery. Oh my God. That's like, I can't even
I can't fathom.
I could pass out just thinking about how awful that is. And like he's singing. I mean, that's
still able
amazing.
To. And that is incredible. Yeah.
So,
wow. Gosh. Yeah, it must have been in the research that I read about that. And I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea he was going through that. Yeah, he's not really one that gets on my radar much anymore. I don't know. I feel like he's recorded 9 million Christmas albums.
Yes.
Mariah Carey.
That's a big,
that's kind of what he's been doing the past couple of decades. It's like one Christmas album after another,
right.
Yeah. So more power to him though, and it's harmless, and, I'm sure it's making him a lot of money, and he's probably having fun. So, no knocking against it at all.
No.
Going back to my grandfather, who didn't approve of the Beatles back in the 1960s. So I have a distinct memory of him visiting us when we lived in Fort Knox, and we had on a baseball game, and it must have been one of the World Series games. And Michael Bolton came up to do the national anthem with the long hair. I still remember my grandpa just being disgusted that this man with long hair is going to sing our national anthem and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I was like, it's Michael Bolton.
Wait until that angel opens his mouth, Grandpa.
Well, that's the thing. He knocked it out of the park, and of course he did. It's like, it's Michael Bolton. This isn't like Motley Crue. This isn't like Twisted Sister over here. It's Michael Bolton. Like, he's a really chill guy.
Right.
Like you said, generous, philanthropic. It's like he probably has more of your values than Grandpa.
Right.
So yeah, I just have a distinct memory of that. We're all just rolling our eyes, like, oh my gosh, Grandpa. Like.
Wait until this angel starts singing.
Yeah. I associate him with my Aunt Ruthie because she was a huge fan. She passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, but we were going through her things, and still had all the Michael Bolton CDs after all these years. I was like, wow, I
Well,
remember her being a fan when I was a kid, and I'm like, she was still listening to his music. So,
yeah,
yeah,
she would have been my sister's hero.
totally. Yeah, they
Yeah.
would have gotten along really well. I think they could have talked about Michael Bolton for a while.
Yes.
Do you listen to Michael Bolton? Your sister was a big fan. Do you listen to him?
I have because of her, and I think when I was like researching the episode, kind of like, when you're a guest on the show, you kind of like will listen to what
Yeah,
we're going to be discussing or something to kind of get you kind of fired up or thinking about it. And
sure.
so I did it, I think, when I was working on that episode, but I'd say overall I am not like a soft rock, like a early 90s soft rock person. I just can't. I
Can't take
can't
it.
do it. I'm more of like, and I have to drive a lot right now because my son goes to a school that's kind of far away. So I have to listen to stuff that's a little bit more like upbeat.
Oh, okay.
Anyways,
You can't totally go the full smooth jazz,
no, I would
soul.
like
Yeah,
be in the rest area for like 3 hours.
right.
But one thing I remembered about, because I was watching a lot of his music videos too, is like kind of the signature Michael Bolton thing is, part A is the hair, obviously, 2 is the exposed chest hair, and 3 is shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads. He
Yes.
had the shoulder pads
If you
going.
watch his music videos, every single one, I swear to God, he is wearing shoulder pads. And I wish I knew how tall he was, but I think he was like of a average to maybe above average height. So it's not like he
5'8"
needed
or something. Yeah.
the shoulder pads to look, I think women used to wear them to look like slimmer. That
Yeah.
was the philosophy behind them. So I'm not really sure why he needed to have broader
I was gonna say
shoulders or to look. I mean, he's always been a thin man, so it's not like he
very
needed to
lean.
look thinner or
Yeah.
something. So,
Right.
anyways,
Very
somebody
fit.
told
Yeah.
somebody's like, "Oh, where's the box of Michael Bolton's shoulder pads? We can't start filming this music video until
Right.
Susan, get that box, get Michael's shoulder pads
We're gonna start
box,
rolling.
please."
Wait. I don't have my shoulder pads on. Yeah.
Right.
Where are they?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a 15-minute break, everybody. We don't know where they are.
Maybe his real shoulders are very narrow and he was self-conscious
Maybe.
about it. Or someone told him that, you have to clean up your image here. You need broader shoulders. Like, oh,
That's true.
okay. Yeah. Maybe he just figured he had to. You
Yeah.
know, every so often, probably once every 3 years or so, I will play some Michael Bolton on
Mm.
Spotify. I'll just play like the big hits, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, just like luxuriate in it,
Yes.
but it's like small doses kind of thing for me.
Yeah.
I can
Well, it's
deal
funny
with
that
some
you
of
use
that.
the word luxuriate because I've never like said that word ever or knew that it was really a thing until I did the Michael Bolton episode and I was reading a woman who who interviewed him, who like clearly is like obsessed with him, like
Really into him, yeah.
wrote, and I like read it in a very like sensual voice because she was like, it's like, is this an article or like
Right.
like I want to date you letter or
Yeah.
something? And
Very
she used that
cool. Yeah.
luxuriate. I don't remember what she luxuriated in regard to him, but that was a
He
word that
just
I remember.
admires
And
him,
that show was
right?
like 4 years ago. So the fact that I remember that is just a testament to luxuriate plus Michael
Yes.
Bolton are synonymous. They go very well together.
Apparently so. The name comes up. This is what you think of. One of the adjectives that comes to mind. Yeah. I'm
Hmm.
not sure I've ever heard that word out, said that word out loud before, actually,
Yeah,
until
it's a good
today.
word. I
There you
should use
go.
it more.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael Bolton, for bringing that vocabulary
I
word.
know he brings out the best in us.
He
He
really
really
does.
does.
In all of us. He's an inspiration. Yes.
Yes. Oh God. All right. So I think we're at the top. You're
Yes.
top of the list person here. So who you got?
End of my list. I am once again cheating and I am bringing multiple people together, but I
Okay.
have to do it. So these are connections I made a long time ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And it's testament to how warped my brain is and how I think, but that I notice these things. So I started to notice there are several gentlemen, older celebrities who all have a very similar signature look. And I don't know if anybody's ever made these connections before. Might be the same, might be the first one, let's
Yeah.
see. But so the three people, I'll just rattle them off and kind of what they're known for. So we'll start with Kenny Rogers, country music legend, Grammy
Yes.
Award winner, Emmy Award winner, just like,
Household name.
household name. Absolutely. If you grew up in the 70s and the 80s, Kenny Rogers was everywhere. Rest in peace. Passed away very recently, like 5 years ago. known for songs like The Gambler, The Coward of the County, Through the Years, just amazingly prolific musician. Like I said, legend. Another musician, Michael McDonald. Now, I bring his name up to certain people. They're like, oh, Michael McDonald, he's awesome. Other people, they don't know who he is.
Yeah.
One of the Doobie Brothers, he was part of that band. He toured with Steely Dan as well. He's done a lot of solo work. He's done a lot of collaborations with other people. He's done background vocals on songs by Toto, by Christopher Cross as well.
Oh, Christopher Cross plus Michael McDonald, match made in heaven. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yacht rock to the max.
Smooth as all get out. And you're right. That is yacht rock at its finest. And that's probably the category I'd put him in. Kind of soul, pop, rock is kind of what he does. Known for his baritone, just melodious, just like beautiful voice.
Beautiful voice.
Piano playing. Kind of a unique voice too. In fact, he is a Caucasian gentleman. I thought for years he was black because his voice does sound like a black soul singer. Honestly,
same with Christopher Cross too. I think a lot of people thought he was black as well.
Yeah. Rick Astley is actually in that category too, and I'm not the only one to think that. Like a lot of people thought, oh, he's a black guy, and then watched the music video. It's like, whoa, he is
the whitest white person I've ever seen.
Yeah, I remember seeing Michael McDonald for the first time, I think, on YouTube, and I'd heard him on the radio up until that point. I saw on YouTube like one of his music videos, and I was just like, he's a white dude. Like I did not know that. Holy cow! Yeah. So Michael McDonald, another legendary musician, and kind of talked about some of his background already. Third person, not a musician, but also looks like the other two. George Lucas. Filmmaker of movies that, you may have heard of. I don't know, obscure stuff. Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Have you heard of any of these?
No, never.
Yeah. Like I said, obscure, obscure
random,
filmmaker, George Lucas, yes.
Hard to find. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Did not spawn an empire, did not spawn a billion-dollar fortune, did not, revolutionize the movie industry. Not at all. No, nothing close to that. George Lucas, like, in addition to everything else I just said, philanthropist. He is also he's been super influential in movies, not only like blockbuster movies and summer movies and just how movies are consumed and movies that get made and are popular now, but also all the spin-off companies that his career created. Pixar. The earliest form of Pixar actually was one of his companies, and eventually was bought by Apple, and I think part of Disney now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it started out as a Lucasfilm company. Skywalker Sound. Not sure if they're actually still around, but did sound for tons of movies. And in fact, Skywalker Sound, also Industrial Light and Magic, a special effects house that's still around to this day. They were involved in tons of movies from the late 70s all up through the 90s and 2000s, and still going. And from what I've heard, other than toys and merchandising, this is how he made a lot of his money. Was he would make, the best sound company, the best special effects company, and then everybody wanted to contract with those companies and use them. So that's how he made a lot of his money over the years. So let's circle back onto what do these three have in common besides being famous? So Kenny Rogers, Michael McDonald, George Lucas, all of them through probably their entire time in the public eye had these just thick heads of hair, just thick and tall and, just like, wow, just like really full.
Yeah.
Full. That's a great word for it. Yeah. Full. And beards, just these really thick, just beards, and, we got to see the progression of, they all went from the dark hair, salt and pepper, as we all do, dark pepper, dark, salt and pepper. And then now all three of those guys, and Kenny Rogers before he passed away, all three of them, just white as snow, all of them. And they look so cool. And I call it the majestic polar bear look is what I call it, because it's just like white hair, like all over the place, on their face, on their head, and still thick, has not lost any of the thickness unless someone's using an appliance. And
the volume is out of control.
The volume is epic. Like all three of these men had just like epic volume in their hair, especially Lucas and McDonald. Like, wow, I saw an interview with Michael McDonald on YouTube recently, and I was just like, he still has like amazing hair. Like, holy cow, I aspired to this. So this is how my twisted brain works. I notice these things, and I'm like, these guys have a very similar look, or had in Kenny Rogers' case. And so I have a friend here in Cleveland that our joke is like, oh, he's got the full George Lucas, or he's got the full Michael McDonald look.
And that is a compliment of the highest.
It is,
Yeah.
again, classy looking, very classy looking. They just look really cool. So again, aspire to do that in my old age, to look cool like that. But if you had a Venn diagram of the three of them, and it's like, okay, Rogers and McDonald are both musicians, but Lucas isn't. What's the connection here, Jason? Like, they all look the same, and maybe they could sit in for each other. If one got tired, I'm going to go home. George, can you sit in on this interview for me? Oh, sure, I can do that. Oh,
brothers from another mother.
Right. Wow, Mike McDonald doesn't sound the same. Yeah, maybe he has a cold. So
well, and I feel like both Michael McDonald and George Lucas also, and they may still have it a little bit now, but kind of had like a quasi mullet in the 80s and 90s.
You're right.
Not like a stereotypical like crazy mullet, but kind of like the subtle mullet that my gym teacher, Miss Sinnard, had when I was in elementary school. And it also features what me and my sister coined a term called bagel bangs. It's where there's like a part of your the top of your hair, and you don't even really have to have bangs, but the top of your hair like kind of gets like kind of spun around a little bit, like just the part, and then there's like kind of like a hole in the middle. If that makes any sense. It probably doesn't, but it did to us, but we're siblings. So, but it just kind of almost looks like there's like kind of like a bagel shape on top of your head, because your like bangs are kind of puffed out a little bit here, and then kind of puffed in the back, and like the parts like right in the middle. So anyways, I feel like they shared that in common. And I think still to this day, because like their hair isn't like side parted or something, there's not like a distinct like,
you're right,
swoop of the hair. It's like it's like infinity in the front.
There's no like canyon, there's no line, there's no like ravine in the hair. It's just hair.
It's just there, and it has to stop like somewhere, and it's not bangs,
right?
But it's not parted. It's like a big like fluff ball in the front that kind of seems like there's like an invisible half bagel in there.
Right.
Which makes no sense. I'll when I post this video to YouTube, maybe I'll find there's a picture of me, my mom, and my sister, and we all have bagel bangs. I don't think it's up anywhere. And we all like our hair's all long and like kind of wavy down, and we all have bagel bangs.
Wow, that clearly was a thing for a while there, right?
It was.
Yeah. That's so
Michael
funny.
McDonald bangs, please. And by bangs, I mean not bangs. I mean like a weird puff on the top of my forehead, please.
I think if I went into the person who cuts my hair and asked her, can you give me the Michael McDonald look? I think she'd be like, it's not possible. Like get out. Or it's gonna take a while.
That silver fox? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it ain't happening. No, I don't think so. She'd be like, yeah, no way, you're not pulling that off.
Come back in 20 years.
No, it's so true. And you're right. I think especially McDonald had the pseudo mullet for sure. Yeah, he had that going for a while. Maybe the other two not so much, but McDonald definitely had that.
Yeah. And Kenny Rogers definitely had, I don't know when, and this is again like, why do I know this information? Like, why do I not know like how to do my taxes on my own?
Right.
Kenny Rogers, toward the end of his, maybe in the last 10 years of his life, he actually ended up getting like a facelift, which was very interesting to see. Because all of a sudden, like he just looked very alert. Like
his eyebrows are higher.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're, again, not here to judge. Like I'm not in the entertainment industry. I don't know what that's like and the pressures and,
sure,
it's neither here nor there, but it was very striking to see that change. And I was not expecting that from,
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah. Cause he's kind of one of those people that's sort of like a Wilford Brimley in that he has looked senior citizen-ish for like 40 years.
Yes.
Like Wilford Brimley, another podcast like thing is like he had like he's he passed away like in the last maybe 5 years, and he was 85 when he passed away. I was like, oh my God, he was only 85. I thought he just
Right.
died. I thought he was like 100, like
I thought he was already
110.
dead. Yeah, I thought he died a while back, and like, hey,
Right.
he's still alive.
No, but he died somewhat recently and he was 85. Like I think technically probably he's like younger than my grandmother. Like what?
Yeah. In the movie
And-
Cocoon, he is like 40 or something. I'm
Right.
like, that man was 40 in that movie.
Right.
No.
Exactly. So I'm not
Come
sure
on.
exactly what Kenny Rogers was hoping to accomplish by
Yeah.
the plastic surgery.
Like,
Again, who
embrace
knows?
who you are, you know.
Yeah. But he just
Yeah.
looked very
Alert.
overly alert.
Kenny is noticing stuff. Kenny notices things.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
others in that category, Morgan Freeman,
Mm.
Patrick Stewart, Michael Caine,
Yeah.
Ian McKellen, pretty much any older British actor, actually, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Walter
but also,
Matthau.
yeah, Walter Matthau, Morgan Freeman, yeah, they all looked like, yeah, they were old men for like 40 years.
Right.
Yeah, I'm older now than Patrick Stewart was when he started on Star Trek Next Generation. I'm like, that can't be true. That can't be true.
Yeah.
It is true. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How
But
can that be true?
he looks, yeah, he's looked old for a long time.
Yeah.
Which has got to be rough. And maybe that's what
Mhm.
happened with Kenny Rogers. It's like, my God, you're
Yeah.
75. I thought you were 75 like 30 years ago. It's like,
Right.
you know what?
He got tired of hearing that. Yes.
Right. Book me an
I'm gonna-
appointment right
I'm
now.
gonna look younger. Yeah.
I would like to look like I'm awake 24/7.
Right. People keep telling me I look sleepy, and I'm just tired of hearing that.
Right. Yeah. Poor
Make
guy.
me look awake. Yeah.
Right. Poor guy. So
Yeah. Oh, the poor guy indeed. So yeah, the trio of majestic polar bears. Yeah.
that's a good one.
It
That's
really
a good
is.
one.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm very excited for my number one. And
I forgot what it is actually, so I'm interested.
well, you're in for a real treat. So I actually didn't really, just like the Catch a Google lead singer, I didn't know what the lead singer of this band's name was. But so the lead singer of the 80s wave synth band that everybody just, loves, the kind of the one-hit wonders, Mike Scorer was a lead singer of A Flock of Seagulls,
Yes. Yes.
which was, a famous band for a hot minute. Probably most memorable because of his hairstyle.
Mhm.
But to back up for a second, Mike Scorer was born on November 5th, 1957. He was the founder and lead singer of the 80s band A Flock of Seagulls. And he actually didn't start out in music kind of right away. His first job, coincidentally, was a hairstylist. Interesting.
May come into play later, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Going to be a factor. So he formed the band A Flock of Seagulls in 1979. And the origin story of how this hairstyle came to be is pretty interesting. So one evening, the band was about to go on stage. They were performing in Trinidad, of all places.
Yep.
And he was, busy combing his hair in front of the mirror. Score is a huge fan of David Bowie, so he was attempting to shape his hair to kind of look like Ziggy Stardust, apparently.
Oh.
Who I think had like subtle bagel bangs, but let's say that for another time. He
Yeah.
was in the process of kind of combing it back when fellow band member Frank Maudsley sort of tried to kind of push him out of the way because he wanted to kind of like touch up his hair too before they went out on stage.
Mhm.
And so he had kind of, brushed his hair back, and somehow his arm kind of brushed up against the middle of Score's hair, pushing down the middle portion, but the side still stayed up.
Huh.
Allegedly. This is like multiple sources all said the same thing.
Okay.
And so,
be
so
true.
somehow maybe he had like a ton of like hairspray or something in his hair and like hadn't hairsprayed the middle or something. So anyways, the middle part of his hair kind of all fell down and went forward and the side stayed up.
Huh.
And as the legend goes, the manager came in, was like, yo, Flock of did anybody say yo in 1980? Probably not, but hey, Flock of Seagulls, like we gotta, you guys gotta get on stage. So Mike didn't have a chance to do any adjustments to his hair. He just had to kind of wing it.
Gonna win, yeah.
Yeah, to wing it.
Yeah.
Full of puns today. It's getting late, getting sassy here. So he just had to wing it. And so they went on stage, and I guess like the audience was like pointing to his hair and thought it was really cool. And so that was like the response for like the first, couple of shows or whatever. So he's like, well, I guess I'll keep it. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that stayed kind of the look. And sadly, A Flock of Seagulls broke up in 1986.
Oh,
They've
tragic.
come, yeah, I know it was kind of a short-lived band. Unfortunately, I mean, they've done so many cool things. They've kind of come back together here and there,
Mhm.
but they pretty much have like disbanded at this point.
I didn't know that.
And
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, and Score. So Mike Score now, who's late 60s at this point.
Okay.
He's actually like pretty much like fully bald.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
fully bald with like a subtle kind of light goatee. And he's still kind of making music here and there. He released a solo album in 2014, but yeah, he's gone from like this crazy blonde,
Bird in
divide,
flight haircut. Yeah.
flat in the middle, up on the sides hairstyle, and now is
Yeah.
like completely bald. And it was, I think, if you're a fan of the show Friends, you may remember the episode where Chandler recreated that look when they did like a flashback episode to the
Oh,
80s, and they come Ross and Chandler come home, I think from college or on Christmas break or something,
yeah.
and Ross is dressed like he's in Miami Vice, I want to say,
I remember
and
that.
Chandler has like a Flock of Seagulls hairstyle and has like kind of those, I'm trying to think what the word is, like these like kind of basket looking shoes, which is not the right term. And he ends up like getting a knife goes through his foot because he has like shoes that have like no
No
protection on
resistance at
them.
all.
It's like
Yeah.
wicker shoes.
Wicker shade.
Um, so anyways, so yeah. So they were getting ready in front of a mirror. Bandmate's hand
Oh,
touches his hair, and we are forever, the recipients of, the beneficiaries of that tragic accident in front of the mirror.
definitely made them stand out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. The Flock of Seagulls haircut. Wow.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah,
Yeah. And their big hit was I Ran So Far Away, right?
right.
Yeah, their genre of rock music was called like space rock, and I never quite understood. I'm like, how's their whole genre for something that probably has like 2 or 3 songs only? I
Right.
don't know what else is considered space rock. I suppose I should research that. But
Yeah,
interesting that that was an accident. I always thought that was something. Surely he did that just to stand out.
yeah.
And
It's
wow,
totally by accident. So, um, yeah, and the music video for Iran is so iconic, but not necessarily for like great reasons. It just
no,
looks like I think their budget was like
yeah,
$20,
It's just-
and they were like given some mirrors and aluminum foil and just said, "Yeah,
yeah,
that's all
yeah.
we got. Figure it out."
The
So
pop-up video on VH1 for that is really funny because it
I missed
is
that. That was such a great show.
it's pointing out all the hidden cameras that are like
Yes,
covered in tinfoil. It's like not a camera, not a
right.
camera, not a camera. It's like all these poor guys. They had no
Yes,
money to make this
it's
music video at all. It's getting
yes. It's
mocked.
so antiquated. It seems so. I mean, it
Oh,
is dated, but
yeah.
it's.
Old
I
music
mean,
videos.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we did our One Hit Wonders podcast a while back, and I don't think they made either one of our lists, but they really could have. I do like
yeah.
that song,
Maybe
but
been an honorable mention, maybe for one of us. I'm not sure, but should look
yeah,
at the
maybe
notes.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and part of it is, yeah, they had a distinctive look, or at least he did.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And now he definitely wouldn't be recognized, although he's kind of has a distinct sort of face
Mhm.
structure or something. So maybe, but
Kind
I
of a
mean,
wide
that's a pretty drastic change.
kind of a wide head, wide
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe people would recognize him. I don't know, but
yeah.
good on him for abandoning it though. Like it had its time, it had its place, its
Right.
era, and it's in the past and he has moved on. What
Yeah.
if he had kept that into his 60s? Like that was ludicrous, he would have been a
Right.
caricature, so good on
Right.
him,
Yeah.
for leaving it behind and realizing, hey, I probably shouldn't keep looking like this.
Right. Yeah. And I wonder if people, I mean, they kind of joked about it obviously in Friends, but I wonder if people did try to recreate that hairstyle for themselves. I imagine people must have.
They had to have, yeah, and I wonder if that was a trend for a while there where people
Yeah.
were trying to do it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
bears looking into to see if there were imitators and how successful were they, right? Imagine
Right.
there's photos out there, probably photos people would rather don't exist,
Yeah.
like,
Give me the flock of seagulls. Give me the
yeah,
Mike Score. Like, what?
right.
Give me the flock of seagulls. Oh, okay.
Right, right. Like, yeah, now they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Yes.
Right. Yeah,
You
Flock
know?
of Seagulls and Mike Score, I don't know what either of those two things are.
Yeah, like, "What are you" yeah. In fact, I didn't even know his name until you
Oh,
mentioned it,
yeah, me
so,
neither.
yeah, I had to do research on that. It's like the guy with the flock of seagulls haircut, like, it's all that's who he is.
That's
Yeah.
right. And everybody knows if they're from that era, they'll know exactly who you're referring to. Yes.
Well, to penetrate into popular culture even like that is just amazing. It's huge, like to be known as anything, let alone, that is really cool, I think, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
especially if you're from a band that had like one big hit song, maybe a couple of smaller hits, and that was really it and kind of trickled off.
Yeah.
And but the fact that your image was so different,
Yeah.
and memorable, that it lives on to this day. Incredible. We should all, make something,
We're
that
better for it. We are better for it. And I think
better
any
yeah.
videos that are done on the 80s or flashbacks, or like CNN often does those decades thing. I mean, I feel like his
Oh,
picture is always a part of
always.
that.
Yeah, they do any kind of montage or like a mosaic of
Yes.
photos, like always the band photo of Flock of Seagulls with him up front, like it's always part of that. Yeah.
Right.
And Miami Vice, speaking of Miami Vice, like it's always those five or six things. Yeah.
Yes.
So to kind
Yeah.
of be emblematic of a decade and an era, yeah, is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet. Good on
Not
you, Mike.
even for the song, just for the style. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
what's even more that
right.
what more people remember,
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely. No, at this point, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Cool.
Yeah. So that was my top one. So I think
Wow.
how many honorable mentions do you have?
I have one honorable mention.
Okay, good. Sorry, I do too. So why don't you can go
Yeah.
first?
All right. So my honorable mention goes to someone who is an 80s icon, and he is notable for his look having not changed
Hmm.
ever since then. So the gentleman I am talking about is Tom Selleck, legendary icon, actor, best known as Magnum PI in the 1980s. Magnum PI was about the eponymous private investigator Thomas Magnum. It was on for 8 seasons, which I didn't know that. It's
Hmm.
on for a while.
Yeah.
1980 to 1988, which 1980 to 1988, I think of that as like that is a golden age. That really
Hmm.
is. Like those 8 years there, or 9 years. That's
So many good shows on.
so much good
Yeah.
shows, good movies, good music. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I call him the last 1980s mustache that is still standing to this day. Tom Selleck is still in the public eye because he stars in the TV show Blue Bloods, which I've actually never seen, but I've seen ads for it, and I've seen what he looks like in the show, and like Tom Selleck is still rocking the stash
Oh
after all
yeah.
this time. I have heard it called a chevron mustache. It's actually technically what he has, a style of mustache, and I guess it's
Huh.
a chevron shape. Yeah, it's a little more of a square or a rectangle kind of situation, or
Huh.
a trapezoid kind of situation. Yeah, not just
Oh
like straight
yes.
across. So it's not a handlebar. It's just, and I was talking to someone the other day about, how I was gonna talk about Tom Selleck on this podcast. And we were like, what has led to him keeping the mustache? Like, because like I talked about my dad, right? My dad had to shave his mustache, and so Yanni had to shave his. John Oates shaved his.
Yeah.
The facial hair is just gone left and right. Why has he been able to keep his and still look kind of cool? Like he's
Yeah.
still cool. And it's not like, oh, look at that, old guy with that mustache. You should get rid of it. And he
Yeah.
had it through the 90s, through the aughts, through the tens, to the
Yeah.
20s now. Still has it. And I don't know if it is because his face, it looks cool with it. Like he's got a all upper lip, I think. And
Yeah.
maybe that helps with it. And it just kind of goes with his overall persona, makes him
Yeah.
look really like wise and, all that stuff. I don't know what it is, but somehow he is still able to pull it off after all this time. It doesn't look dated. It looks good.
Right. Yeah.
He's still a handsome man, and it's like, okay, good on you, Tom Selleck, for keeping the stash after all this time. So
Hmm.
yeah, he's my honorable mention, the one who did not change, the one who is still left standing after all these years.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he definitely pulls it off well, and I think maybe because his look wasn't so. His look was just a little bit more like basic, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think Tom Selleck is a very handsome man, and
Mhm.
like, I mean, who
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
think that Tom Selleck is like the coolest person ever?
right. He's a
So
cool dude. Yeah.
yeah, I think because his mustache was never like obnoxious or like
Hmm.
attached to some weird outdated hairstyle or something. Like maybe it's just a very timeless look, I
Always
think is
had
what I'm
short
trying to say.
hair. Yeah, that might be it's not tied to long hair. He never had the mullet, as far as I
Yeah,
know. I don't think he ever rocked a mullet. He always had short hair. So, yeah,
right.
maybe that's it. He was kind of able to hold on to it because of
Yeah, which makes me think, could you imagine? And I wonder if I could probably do something on Photoshop with this. I'm not kidding, but I probably won't have time to do it, or I'll forget that I even said this. But I could. How would the lead singer of Catch a Goo Goo or A Flock of Seagulls look if they still had the hair, but with like just a dark, like Tom Selleck mustache?
It looked
That would look
ridiculous.
so bad.
It looked awful.
Oh my God.
We
Someday.
would all be making fun of them. Yes.
Yes. What a horrible combination,
Yeah.
It's like, I don't
Oh,
know what's
yeah.
more distracting, the hair or that fact that that mustache just doesn't work.
You've got to do it, or
Yeah.
put the Yanni mustache on Michael's score. You've got to do it.
Yeah. Oh man. Another $1 million idea.
Yeah. I think that might be the thing of nightmares. I don't know if you
That's
should
true.
unleash that on the public. Yes.
Yeah. Like a greeting card company, like if you want to send like something mean to somebody or want to scare them,
Right.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Wah! Yeah.
Yeah. Happy Halloween. Happy
Exactly.
Halloween. Here's Flock of Seagulls with a mustache.
With the Yanni mustache, no less.
Yeah. Specifically, or Wilford Brimley mustache.
Oh my word. Yeah, that'd be even worse. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, that'd
yeah.
be very
It
scary.
would match a little bit better, I guess, because lighter in color. But
Well,
anyways,
that's true. Yeah.
yeah,
Go together. Yeah.
lighter. Yeah. So my honorable mention is
Yeah.
John Travolta, the
Oh,
beloved actor who, graced our screens in starting in the 70s for, I'd say, for the most part, with being
yes.
on Welcome Back, Kotter, being on Grease, the classic movie, Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with the movie Grease. I used to rent that all the time from Blockbuster. I don't know why, but my God, did I love that movie. And there's so many innuendos that are not appropriate for like a
No.
middle schooler that I did not pick up on. And all the people who played high schoolers were like 30,
Yes.
but that's besides the point. So John Travolta, very famous in his younger days for his hairstyle, very thick, beautiful black hair
Oh yeah.
that was always styled perfectly, often styled during that time, I think especially in Greece, was styled in what's called a pompadour
Pompadour.
style, which I feel like I've heard the word pompadour, but I don't think I knew that that was a hairstyle.
Oh, okay.
So learned some very usable vocabulary by preparing for the show, because pompadour is going to come in handy for not only this podcast but my photography business. So
it will. You'll encounter
yeah,
people with pompadours. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, very famous pompadour style, kind of like James Dean for Grease, and kind of somewhat similar-ish for Saturday Night Fever. So just very much known for his hair.
Oh yeah, full heads of hair, sometimes sideburns in some of those older movies. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And in the 80s, he had hairstyles that were kind of all over the place based on his role. He had kind of like a quasi mullet at one point for a role. Can't remember which movie that was. Then he had side parted hair, etc. And then in the 90s, rumors started to swirl that he had hair transplant done. And so again, I just can't imagine being a celebrity. I really can't.
No.
Like zoomed in on his forehead and circling like where the hairline is. It's
yeah.
like, why, why are we doing this
like
to this
that?
guy? Yeah. His son passed away with a tragic accident. His wife is like deceased. Does it really matter?
Right.
So just interesting how the ridicule. But anyway, so rumors went on about that, which is, unfortunate. And then in 2019, Travolta started sharing some photos of himself, I think, on social media with a bald head. So I don't think there was ever any sort of coming out about the hair struggles.
Yep.
Not like Andre Agassi. I guess he's written about that a lot in his autobiography and stuff like that. But
yeah,
John Travolta hasn't kind of come out and said anything about it. Not that he needs to.
No.
Not nobody's business. But I think he's embracing, his bald head, which again I think was sort of a surprise to see. But now it like totally works, and he's such an iconic, just American.
Yeah. One of our great actors and singer, dancer.
You can't help but smile. Yeah, when you look at John Travolta, he just exudes happiness or something. So whatever, he totally pulls off. Not having any hair. Despite being really associated with hair. So
sure.
yeah. So John Travolta.
Hair transplant, that would make a lot of sense the more I think about it, because I think in the 90s he had kind of like that bristly kind of haircut where it kind of like
Yeah,
went up, to some extent. It like didn't look like anything like any look he'd ever had before. And so,
right.
and I know that hairstylists and stuff are amazing in Hollywood. They could do a lot. So maybe it was something along that line. But yeah, his hair did look way different in the 90s. I remember when he was he had that career resurgence with Pulp Fiction
Yes.
and Get Shorty and like a lot of those movies that he was in,
Yeah.
and he was great. And in that career resurgence, and that kind of second phase, he was also really cool and had a lot of iconic parts. But yeah, the hair was way different. That could explain it. Yeah,
Yeah. It
but
kind of went from like really, really thick, and then there was like some thinning out that was apparent, and then yeah, some possible hair transplant thing, which I think a lot of Hollywood actors do. It's just not really discussed, which is
mhm,
in some ways it's kind of sad, because I think that
it
just
is.
adds to the shame. Because I feel like
Yeah.
women were a little bit more able to say, I mean, there's other
Mhm.
criticisms that we're often the recipients of, but feel like women are more comfortable saying like, I have alopecia, or my hair is thinning, or I
Right.
cut my hair, or I had it styled a certain way to kind of help with this, that, or the other. But I think for men,
Yeah.
to say, my hair's thinning and I tried to undergo a procedure to grow some back. I totally understand that. I like why somebody would want to do that.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Mhm.
So, um, John
Yeah.
Travolta,
Yeah, you're right. It's almost seen as shameful. And yeah, good
yeah,
on him to just kind of be like, you know what, this is who I am, deal.
right,
And and you know what, especially at this point too, and just society and everything, like he's always been one of the coolest dudes, to walk the planet. And it's like,
yeah,
good on you. You can do this,
right,
and
yeah. Don't worry
maybe.
about what other people think.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It doesn't matter. And you're right. You alluded to some of the tragedy he's faced. I could see where after a while he's just like, forget it.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna throw it to the wind.
right,
And just show everybody who I am, and this is what it is. So good on him.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. He's an
yeah,
American treasure.
he really is. You said your sister was a big fan of Grease, or no, you were?
I was, yes. I always
Yeah.
I rented it, and I don't think I've watched it once in the last 25 years. I don't know why I was so obsessed with like renting it. And then if it was like out, I'd be like so upset. It's like, then why didn't I probably spent enough money renting it why didn't I just buy it?
Right, you could just had a copy for yourself. VHS
Yeah,
tapes were pretty expensive back in the day. Maybe that's what
true.
kept you from, and not really as easy to find to buy at one point.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
maybe in
Yeah.
the 90s, but in the 80s, yeah, it was not easy to find movies. I had to
Mm-mm.
buy, you had to like order them through the mail, and it was like $60 or something for one movie.
Right.
So
Right. P.O.
it was
Box
crazy.
484, Hollywood, California. Ah, forget it.
Yeah, right, right.
Check our money
No,
order.
totally. Well, I was
Yeah.
asking because my sister was a big Grease fan as
Mm.
well, and just a huge John Travolta fan in general. My sister is. But some of the earliest music I think I ever remember hearing was her audio cassette of the Grease soundtrack.
Mm. That's a good
So
one.
I hear those songs, it just like triggers like I'm pre-kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see the actual musical, I think, till much later, maybe high school or something. Finally saw it. So totally missed the boat there. I think maybe I was just a little too young to have seen the movie, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I like the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack a lot, and
Oh,
so
same. I had that on CD, I think, and listened to that
oh
all the
yeah,
time.
I used to have it on CD. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, loved
All the
it.
time. And I
It's
don't even think I
excellent.
really watched the movie because
The movie's kind of depressing. Yeah,
it's depressing. It's kind of dark and kind of,
kind of dark.
yeah,
Yeah.
deals with stuff I don't want to watch a movie about. But for some reason, yeah, I was obsessed with that
That's a good YouTube
soundtrack.
clip to go watch, is just the scene where he takes over the dance floor at the disco, and it's just him,
Yeah.
in all the camera angles and all the moves he's doing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And of course the white leisure suit is just iconic, the white
Yes.
disco suit that in fact I was listening to a podcast today that was talking about the movie Saturday Night Fever, and they noted uh, the Rewatchables podcast is the name of it, and
Mm.
they noted on there that Gene Siskel, movie critic, actually bought one of the three white suits. There were three of them for the filming, the so he could switch back and forth between them. I guess if one got dirty, they could be cleaning it while he wore another one for shooting. And Gene Siskel, the movie critic, actually bought one of them and owned it for a while. Then apparently auctioned it off, and no one knows who has it now. It's in a private collection somewhere. But how cool, right? Would that be to have it? I think I'd attempt to put it on. It probably wouldn't fit, but yeah, I'd attempt to put it on. And
he was so tiny.
Yeah, he was
so tiny then.
Slim. Yeah. I mean, and he worked out a ton dancing, just to be ready for that movie. So, no wonder. But, well, cool. That's a good honorable mention. John Travolta. Love it.
Yeah, I forget that. Yeah, I do like John Travolta, because I think I was like, oh, man, who else am I going to think about? And then, like, who else am I going to use? But then I'm, like, stumbled upon, some people. I'm like, oh, my God, I could actually have, like, a lot more honorable mentions, but we'd be here.
Forever.
Be here forever. So had to narrow it down.
I almost went with the Bon Jovi or the David Lee Roth, but it was a little too they had long hair and they cut it. It's not really.
I thought about John Bon Jovi too. Yeah.
Yeah, because he had enormous hair at one point. Yes. So did David Lee Roth, honestly, and they clearly got the weed whacker out and trimmed that down. Dealt with it, and now they both look like accountants. And it was interesting, though. I was looking at a lot of the hair metal musicians. Surely one of these guys has radically changed and had ultra giant hair and now doesn't. Most of them still have long hair, actually.
Yes, I've noticed that too.
Cut their hair, but for the most part, all the others still have long hair.
It's really? Like Axl Rose still has long hair.
Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
All the Motley Crue guys, other than the drummer, Tommy Lee, I think has cut his hair, but all the other guys from Motley Crue still rocking the long hair.
It's like shoulder dusting length, as something.
Yeah, and just kind of straight. It doesn't have the volume it used to, or you can probably hide stuff inside it. It's not like that anymore. Yeah.
Slash still has the same. Long
hair,
curly black hair, and I think he still wears the big top hat and
shadows his face with the top hat. You never really see his eyes. It's always a part of the guy's mystique. Yeah. Interesting that he's kept that look all this time, but he's another one of those cool dudes, It's just like he can look however he wants, and he's had that look since the late 80s, and fine,
how many people can pull off a Mad Hatter hat,
Right.
Not many.
Make that their signature thing and just do it forever. Yeah, amazing. What kind of people are kind of cool with this is still cool after all these years, and then the things where people are like, no, you need to change that. It looks weird now. It's apparently, like you said, the Mad Hatter look does not go out of date.
No. And I wonder, does he have like permanent hat hair?
Yeah, you got to wonder what's going on under there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's permanently like
it's a circle around his head.
Has it left a mark? Is it tanning?
I have a giant head, and when I wear a baseball hat, it squeezes the head, and there's a line there, or I have it on the corners on the temple. There's just red marks there for hours after I wear a hat. So you gotta wonder with him, is his head in the shape of the hat now?
Yeah, I guess custom hats,
probably they're probably super comfortable too. They're not like the off the shelf, where I'm torturing myself. Yeah.
Yes. No, I have a huge head too. When I was in Little League, they had to order me an adult size hat.
Oh, you know the pain then. The struggle.
I do. I have a huge head, and people are like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, I do. Have you not seen my baseball hats? They have to be a certain kind, and I check to see what is the measurement from the top of the hat to the side of the hat, because a lot of times the hat goes down to here. I'm like, well, that's not going to work.
Yeah, very important. You got to check this stuff out. And it is hard to find hats that fit. It really is. People out there with small heads, rejoice in your small head because you don't know the struggle.
No, the number of head migraines and headaches I've gotten because I'm I'm wearing this hat. I don't care. And it's too tight.
I have a Cleveland Guardians baseball hat. They changed from the Indians to the Guardians, so we got rid of all our Indian stuff and replaced it with Guardian stuff over time. And I'm like, I'm going to get a really cool Guardians baseball hat with the new logo on it and stuff. And wore it once, and I'm like, it's giving me a headache. So now my wife wears it because I can't wear my own hat. She's like, oh, well, since you can't wear it, can I wear it? I'm sure that happens between you guys too. It's like, I'll take your clothes if you don't.
Oh yeah, my wife has a little she puts on one of my hats, and it looks like she's a little kid playing with their parents. Hat from the closet. It's oh my God, it must be nice to have a normal sized head.
Well, that's the thing. We both have giant heads actually, and but for whatever reason, that hat does fit her and doesn't fit me. So, that's
It's real.
It's a difficult road. Yes,
it is. It's so rough. Well, on that note, thank you again for being on the show, and just can you remind us again where we can find you out in the world?
Absolutely.
On the internet?
Yeah, thank you. No, and thanks for having me. This was fun. So you can find information about me and my books at www.jasonrlady.com. And I'm also on Facebook as Jason R. Lady Author, and I'm on Instagram as Jason R. Lady Author. So you can follow announcements about my books and things I'm up to and so forth, and follow me on there. And if you're compelled to buy a book, I would always love to get a review. Those are always very helpful. And no, thanks for this opportunity once again to come on and talk about a completely random pop culture nostalgia topic. This was
Yes.
fun.
Yes, indeed. All right. Until next time. I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Jason Lady, who, if I did my math correctly, has now appeared on the show a total of 8 times. That's just awesome. How cool is that? And as always, I will leave all of Jason's contact information in the show notes. And before we wrap up, I wanted to make sure to give a few shout outs and share some relevant information with you all. First, Justin, who hosts the Pop Culture Reflections podcast, recently left a very kind review. 5 stars, pop culture with heart. Amy brings heart, insight, and enthusiasm to this entertaining pop culture and nostalgia podcast. Highly recommended. Thank you, Justin, for your continued support and encouragement. And if you like my podcast, you should definitely check out his podcast, Pop Culture Reflections, and I will leave a link to that show in the show notes. He's an awesome, awesome person. And I also want to make sure to thank Amy Fagan from the Grounded in Maine podcast for all of her continued support of, not only my show, but I swear she is friends with everyone in the podcasting community. And I will leave a link to her show in the show notes as well. Also, a shout out to Sharon, who has listened to several episodes of the show recently on Spotify. She started with some of the early shows and left comments on them, which I didn't realize was a thing, but is actually, really cool. And one comment she left just made my day. She listened to episode number 1, which was the Golden Girls episode back 5 years ago now. And she said, quote, "I almost wrecked when you yelled out of nowhere, 'Not now, Ma!' But I forgive you because you have good fun facts." First of all, I hope, Sharon, that you still listen to the show because I was really, really nervous when I recorded that first episode. I really was. And I think that's one of the few episodes I don't even think I've been able to listen to again just because I kind of cringe a little bit. So I'm so glad that you enjoyed that episode. And second of all, I am so glad that you found my commentary funny. And I joke all the time about my podcast being fun and educational, but it's actually very true. That's always the goal. And if I remember correctly, I think I yelled out, "Not now, Ma," as a joke about B. Arthur, who played Dorothy. Prior to her fame and being an actress, she was actually in the military. I want to say it was maybe the Marines. And she drove a truck, I believe, during the war effort. And I wondered if, "Not Now Ma" was her CB handle. I mean, that would be pretty cool and memorable. So thank you, Sharon. Also, recently I was a guest on the Retromade podcast, which is an incredible pop culture podcast which focuses heavily on movies from the 80s and 90s. The host, Katie, was kind enough to invite me onto her show to discuss the 1993 epic disappointment that was Dennis the Menace, which, by the way, I was obsessed with Dennis the Menace growing up. Honest to God, obsessed with Dennis the Menace. So I had a lot to say about this movie, and I'm so glad that that was the episode I was on because we had a lot to talk about. And I don't know if you know this, but there aren't actually a ton of women who host pop culture podcasts. So to have another fellow lady in the space, I mean, I've made some amazing connections with the gentleman as well, but it's just really cool to connect with another woman, and her show is so well done and so well executed and organized so well and is so much fun. So I will leave a link to the episode that I was on and her podcast in the show notes. And don't forget, we are quickly approaching the 5-year mark of the show. So if you have any memories, favorite episodes, etc. that you would like to share, please feel free to email me. My email address is amy@popcultureretrospective.com. You can message me directly on my website or on Instagram. I'm at popcultureretro. And visit popcultureretrospective.com for all of your 80s, 90s, and early 2000s nostalgia needs. Here you can find all the episodes of the podcast, as well as links to my YouTube channel and social media accounts. And you can also leave reviews here and check out some merch. It's pretty cool stuff. So I hope you will join me for my next show, which should be coming out early next week, as we discuss yet another fascinating facet of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s in memory of my sister. Until then, be kind, be safe, and hold on to your memories.
Thank you for tuning into my mama's podcast and the memories of Auntie Rebecca.